It's game three, South Carolina. Time to beat a bunch of cocks. So here's what's up. Vance Levy of Bulldog Illustrated explodes with his controversial hot takes. Bert Hodges of dogbone.net. He has stats, meaningful stats, mind blowing stats. Buffalo is back. He's the Colonel Bruce Hampton of college football. He coined the phrase three for the G, and he's going to pontificate on all things dog related. And finally, our gambling guru is back, and his street name is Dogger. And for legal reasons, we have to keep his identity a secret. And it won't be a shock when we beat those cocks. Smoke 'em if you got 'em. We about to crack a tall boy and light it up.
It's time for the Mad Dog Show, coming to you live from the Park Group studio in the heart of the Bulldog Nation. The Mad Dog Show is proudly sponsored by
The Sanford Company, Bulldog Illustrated, Dogbone.net, Classic City Collective, The Park Group Marketing and Media, Fincher's Barbecue, Sellers Construction, Bib Distributing, Pelicano Construction, Go Clean Co., Jay Lee Attorney at Law, Ortho Georgia, Progressive Communications, Cherokee Brick, Macon Monogramming, Jags Pizzeria, ASP, Butler Auto Group, Willingham Sash and Door, Cranford Chiropractic, and Wathall Oil Company.
Now, here he is, your host, the Mad Dog.
So this past weekend was so dreamy, so perfect. Our Bulldogs bashed Ball State 45-3. And I thought we covered, but somebody said we pushed. At any rate, we increased our winning streak to 19. And we increased our home winning streak to 20, which at the time was the second best home winning streak in the country until Texas took down the Tide to the delight of the entire human race. And now we own the longest winning streak on planet Earth. And as we all saw, the Tide's in trouble. This ain't the typical Tide team that little tricky Nicky trots out each year. No. This team is definitely not elite. Their quarterback is not elite. Their wide receivers are not elite. Their O-line is not elite, and definitely not their defense. And by the way, when the best player on your defense is named Kool-Aid, your defense might be a joke. And Kool-Aid's not a nickname. It's on his birth certificate. So, I mean, when your family's sitting around and they're kicking around potential names for the baby, I mean, is Powerade in the mix? Is Gatorade in the mix? Is somebody say, how about Sweet Tea? Sweet Tea McKinstry. It just kind of rolls off the tongue. That would have been my choice. But clearly his family were forward-thinking visionaries, looking at the future for the NIL endorsement opportunities. Or maybe not. Anyway, now, maybe you didn't expect Texas to win, but I did. I predicted it right here on this show. I said, and I quote, Texas is going to A.D. Mitchell, Bama to death. And they did. And speaking of funny names, do you know what A.D. stands for? It stands for Alabama's daddy. And that's what he is. Seriously. Bama is teetering on the brink. They're the Molly Hatchet of college football right now because they're flirting with disaster. Why? I'll tell you why. This could snowball into a 7-5 season. Don't believe me? All right, well, check this out. Look at their possible losses that are still out there. Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, and don't forget the Iron Bowl with Auburn where anything can happen. So, let's indulge this little football fantasy, shall we? Because it's magically delicious. Bama goes 7-5. 7-5. They begrudgingly accept a bid, an invite to the Birmingham Bowl to play another nobody, which, by the way, is on December 23rd. So they'll be home in time for the Christmas Eve service, which, P.S., would be a great business decision for Jermaine Burton. The Birmingham Bowl. You know your bowl sucks when it's named after a city because there's not a corporation out there that will pay you money to sponsor it. Meanwhile, the entire state of Alabama will be doomsday prepping for the tribulation, followed by the rapture, where none of them will make the cut. And Saban's hot seat will be hotter than molten lava. Well, what about all the talking head brainiacs over at ESPN? Remember them? The one who picked Bama to win a natty. Desmond Howard, Pat McAfee, Herb Herbstreit. What are they going to be doing? Will they be owning up to their terrible prediction? Of course not. What are they going to be doing? They're going to be speculating like everybody else when it's time for Nick to call it quits. And just when it can't get any worse for Bama, a video surfaces and goes viral, and you know the one I'm talking about. We thought about airing this thing for like a split second, but it's too offensive. It's too horrific. There's no way we could air this thing. First of all, it shows the horrible sportsmanship or the lack thereof of Bama fans. Nothing shocking there, right? The entire college football world knows what sore losers they are, the sorest losers. And the worst part is what the Bama fans are screaming. Profanity-laced, racist, homophobic slurs. And I didn't make that up. And if you don't believe me, look it up. It's not going to be hard. Look it up, Google it. Okay, here's a cleaned up version of what they said. F-bomb, homophobic slur, go back to the projects where you belong. I mean, wow, just wow. Hey, parents out there, considering a college for your senior? Well, at Alabama, we'll teach your child how to be poor sports. Sore losers who use profanity-laced, racist, homophobic slurs. So, in conclusion, to summarize, Bama just lost to Texas in Saban's worst home loss ever. Bama's dynasty is dead. Saban is headed to retirement sooner than later, and your fans are racist homophobes whose language is nastier than a porta potty at Burning Man, or maybe nastier than a porta potty at Coachella. Whatever. It's nasty as a porta potty. And it's more embarrassing than Stormy Daniels nicknaming you Tiny. All those statements that I just made are all true. You cannot refute them, so don't even try. So let that sink in, you bunch of fat freaking elephants, because now nobody even chants we want Bama anymore. Can you believe that? Right, Texas? The Longhorn fans were chanting we want Georgia last Saturday night. Now, Texas, tap the brakes, would you? Geez, one big win and you guys have delusions of grandeur. Texas, too soon. You're not in the SEC yet, but you are in the most accurate poll in college football. And that, of course, is my poll, the Mad Dog Dirty Dozen. And you might want to write this down. So here we go. At number 12, Lane Kiffin is lurking. He's playing a little better defense. Watch out, SEC West. He is a dark horse alert. Next up is number 11, and I have Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes. Don't like it? I don't care. They pass the eye test with flying colors, and they are the fly in the ointment this year. Learn to love it. At number 10, as much as I hate it, I have Alabama. No further comment necessary. 9, the Tennessee Volunteers, because why not? Speaking of the Vols, I have them on upset alert this weekend. They play at Florida. Sound crazy? Well, I am. Number 8, Ohio State. Don't have a quarterback. Haven't played anyone. Won't play anyone until November, just like every other year. And I will continue to refer to them as either Ohio State Brown Eyes or Ohio State Chin Nuts, depending on my mood, and it fluctuates wildly. And P.S., there is no "the" in front of Ohio State. Now, speaking of not playing anyone until November, at number 7, I have Michigan, led by their coach, Jim Harbaugh. He cheats. He lies about cheating. But at least he's consistent. Coming in at number 6, USC. Currently in the Pac-12, soon to be the Tupac. Do I believe they will run the table? No. Do they play defense? Also no. Do I think Lincoln Riley is cool? Only if you think members only jacket are cool. Back in the day, if you wore a members only jacket, we would refer to you as a DB, and I'm not talking about defensive back. Do I think Caleb Williams will repeat as a Heisman winner? What has two letters and rhymes with no? At number 5, Notre Dame. They have a tough schedule this year for once ish. This is actually the kind of year where if they went out, the luck of the Irish could play in their favor. It could kick in and they could get in. Who has 2 thumbs up and would relish seeing the Irish get embarrassed in the CFP? This guy. Now, the Final Four. My dark horse team from the preseason is Penn State. All they got to do is beat an average Ohio State and an overrated Michigan. So why not? Beating the brakes off James Franklin and Penn State to start the year on January 1 would be the perfect start. Almost as perfect as beating Ohio State last year as the clock struck midnight, but you get the picture. Number 3, FSU. They absolutely humbled Brian Kelly, and God knows he needs to be humbled. And I've told you about how smug and condescending and arrogant he is. Not that you needed me to tell you that. And I could go on and on about that, but that's another podcast for another day. At number 2, Texas. You got to give it to them. Sark already has them looking like an SEC team. A year early. The quarterback was great. They have receivers all over the place, led by Alabama's Daddy Mitchell. And who's at number 1? Us. And since best never rest, it's time to eat off the floor. Welcome back, Vance. How you doing?
Rah-rah. Finally a real game. Finally a real game.
Looks like better never rests over at your crib.
That's right. That's right. Kirby's looking like a madman on the cover. Love it.
Yep. I've already delved into it, read your letter, which is awesome as always. And I like to flip through the whole thing and then go back and just start picking it apart. Of course, I went back to JD's top 12 to see how much, I overlap with him, because both of those are different from your standard AP poll. But how are you feeling about this weekend, man?
I mean, I'm excited to see what we've got. I mean, obviously the last 2 weeks, the competition has not been that great. We've seen our offense struggle a little in the first quarters, which is at least giving people something to bitch about, right?
Yeah, they always find it. They always find it. Well, here's my concern, and me and you get to tackle this tonight since Dr. Feelgood's in spine surgery, is what are you hearing about Edwards and what are you hearing about Ladd?
Okay, Kirby on Monday said Edwards could have played the last 2 weeks. They held him out. So that makes me feel good about that one. I think Ladd, I did hear, and I mean, this is, not, I have no concrete on this, but I do hear he's improving.
Okay.
So, and these last 2 weeks have afforded us the luxury to let some guys get healthy. Why in the world would you not take advantage of that?
I'm with you. I mean, if they're probable, don't play them in these last 2 games. Let them get all the way healthy. I mean, I'm so cautious. I'm like, don't play them until you have to. I mean, if we can beat South Carolina with the running backs we got and the receivers we got, give them another week. I don't care.
Yeah, I think we're ready. I think they're ready to get them those reps, though. Because Kirby's big on, just because they're back, it's a different. They're running at a different rate when they're out there in a game. So if they can go, it's time to get them on the field for sure. But I will say Kirby did touch on, just how much Kendall Milton has come on as a blocker since his early days. I'm pretty sure he said Kendall is the best at it at this point. So that was Kirby, he doesn't throw out accolades that much. So to me, that was meaningful.
Yeah.
And of course, nobody's denied. Milton's had a very hard time staying healthy. So, as much as you root on him, you're always kind of worried about the next time he's going to get banged up. I mean, unfortunately, that happens to some of these guys. But to hear Kirby single him out as being one of the better blockers back there, and his dedication to the program, kind of, sometimes you hear people out there in cyber world that, question somebody's abilities if they are one of those that have the injury bugs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't question his abilities at all. I mean, we've seen him. It's just, there's a certain level of concern that you're just always worried that something's going to happen. He seems like his hamstrings are prone to get pulled, and that just may be an ongoing issue he's got to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, and you got to hope he's going to have a good, a healthy year would be awesome for him, for
No
sure.
doubt. No
Yeah.
doubt. So, I mean, do you have any concerns about this game?
Well, I mean, I joked with you over the summer that we'll know who the quarterback is if we go into the locker room at halftime down 20-7 or 14-3. So
Well, and I'm hoping that would be more likely to occur later in the season. You also joked with me about one other thing. Do you remember what that was?
yes, the Bulldogs will in fact lose again. I can pull the media kit out if you want me to look back at the thousands, hundreds of or thousands of losses they've had over 100 years of playing football.
Yeah, it was the wicked way you said it to me. We were talking about something, and you looked at me. You go, "Well, let me just remind you. You know that we will lose a game again one day, right? That's gonna happen."
And Lord help us when it does, because it will. But getting back to the quarterback, I'll have to say, watching a good bit of the second game. The first, I was a little busier. I was impressed with the way Carson Beck went through his progressions, didn't wasn't sloppy with the football when something wasn't there. He either checked down to a back or something like that, or he got rid of the football. You know, that's exactly why Kirby basically said he got the nod, because he's got the most reps within that system. And I hate to tell people, the Mike Bobo offense is pretty darn similar to Todd Monken's. For all the people that want to be worrying about Coach Bobo, you and I talked about. I mean, if we win by 41 points and 500 yards of offense, and the world was about to explode Labor Day weekend. So, but
Yeah, I'm not in the worried about Bobo camp. And one thing going back to Beck that I really liked is that he showed his mobility when he needed to. When it's not there, he's been able to run. He had a nifty little touchdown. He's had some, runs for 9, 10, 11 yards. And I'd kind of been led to believe that there was just no mobility there when clearly there is. So, and you need that. You know that.
I mean, I think he play baseball too. I mean, I think he's a pretty rounded athlete. And just like we will lose again, quarterbacks do throw interceptions, and you just got to hope that when his first one comes, it's not the pick six variety, because that's exactly what a team like South Carolina, who I firmly believe, unless somehow we can rock Rattler's bell early, I think he'll come out and we'll have a good start and move the football. So conversely, on the other side of the football, you can't, let's say they roll down and kick a field goal, score a touchdown. You can't follow that up with a silly interception or not. When the rush is coming on, you try to do too much, fumble, anything like that. That's what you can't have. And as we know, Kirby won't tolerate it too long. But you string together 3 picks or something in that in one game, and a 20-something underdog South Carolina can come into Athens and shock the world. Just ask Jake Fromm and the last time we lost in Sanford Stadium.
Where they were
2000.
20, there were 20.5 points underdogs.
Yep, yep. And those picks were, I mean, was that Fromm's only 3-pick game his whole time at Georgia? I
I
think
think
it
so, man.
Yeah. So I mean, it just shows you that untimely picks can hurt you. So as a backer of Georgia, you just gotta hope that Carson's ready for the next level of competition that's cranking up on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people forget going to Beck. I'm going to say two things that don't go together. So Beck, as you know, was originally committed to Alabama and then decommitted. That should give people confidence. But then to your point about if you go into halftime down whatever 21-7 and you need to make a change, Kirby hasn't named a second string quarterback. In that scenario, who do you think it would be?
Well, I don't think anybody can say that because I've heard good things about Brock. I've heard good things about Gunner. That would be an interesting one for sure.
You may not be able to say as an official member of the media. I, however, am not, although I do get excluded from certain events when I get tagged as one.
Good for you.
Yeah,
The big time, baby.
that's right. Not really. I'm going to go with Gunner. I'm going to go with Gunner in that situation. But, Bobo recruited him heavy to South Carolina. Not that that's going to sway him, but I just think if you look at live arm, mobility, natural instincts, and just pure leadership and how it looks on the field, body language wise, he just looks like the guy.
Yeah. I mean, what did someone say to me when they'd gotten some intel from one of the first scrimmages? He basically said, here, I can even pull it up, and it was pretty good to me. I think he has the best natural instincts. So, and I think that's kind of what you're saying. But, the good news is I think we've got a quarterback room that is ready for whatever may come their way. And if you were watching the Jets game the other night, it could come in the fourth play of the game.
Right.
Or back to Fromm, what was that? The second play of the first game for old Jacob Eason. And I mean, that was a great, like that didn't even look like a big play on the sidelines.
Right.
So
well, I haven't gotten to talk to you since the game of the week last week. Get your thoughts on Texas versus Alabama.
Whew. I mean, don't you have to tip your hat to Texas? From a scheme and lining up to play football, they won. They were the better team, and they won the game. It was very impressive. The penalties that Alabama has shown, going back to, and they've had some years where they've had penalties and they overcame them. But to me, that was the most shocking, was to be that careless in your own home stadium.
And there were a lot of penalties that didn't get called. If you went back and watched that game, they had, I think, 10 or 11. They could have had 20.
Right. So to me, that was the most alarming. Now, do I think Alabama's going to be just fine? Provided they can figure out who their quarterback is, because their guy had an okay game, but everything that had worried people, he kind of showed signs of, not, being able to react to when things broke down and not to, I call it diarrhea of the football. I mean, it is messy, and it can get messy real quick.
Well, and I mean, Texas just looked like an SEC team, size-wise. They had receivers all over the place. I kept expecting every other pass to go to A.D. Mitchell, and they'd throw a pass to a big receiver, and I'd be thinking, oh, that's A.D., and it'd be somebody else.
I mean, there's a reason that Sark and Kiffin put up the best numbers that Alabama's ever had in their history. I mean, those guys are X and O's. I mean, they're saying they're legit. It's kind of laughable. And if I'm Alabama, I think Feinbaum said it. They've got one more powder puff this week, but the following week they've got Kiffin coming. They've got to figure out who's their guy at quarterback.
No
Or
doubt. I got into this a little bit earlier. Their schedule of theirs with this team, it could go south on them. And
you know,
South for Alabama is 9-3.
yeah, I mean that's deep South, baby.
They're already freaking out. Heads are exploding on Feinbaum. You think the world's ending? Got hero. Saban goes from hero to goat over one loss to what turns out to be a top 5 team, and it's hilarious.
I mean, it's hard not to kind of like it, but just because those Alabama fans or something. Now, that's not to say there's not Alabama fans that I like. Cameron
Nothing
James,
better. There's
but
nothing better than Feinbaum on a Monday after an Alabama loss.
yes, I enjoyed it immensely. But we've now reached that level that when we lose, we're going to be losing our mind like that too. It's part of a championship culture where if every play in a game does not go your team's way, you're quick to find fault for the coach, the called play, the personnel, blah blah blah. I mean it comes with the territory, I guess.
Well, and then of course immediately the rumors become rampant about retirement. I mean, look into your crystal ball. Don't base it on one game, but in the totality of everything, if you had to say, when he's going out, is he going to be Bobby Bowden or Joe Paterno and probably stay too long?
Well, I guess
You
that
gotta,
has a lot. Guess that has a lot to do with what Kirby and the dogs continue to do.
yeah,
I mean, really. I mean, their goal this year is to get back, and if they happen to play us, is to. I mean, they want to take the title away from us for sure, because we're trying to do something that they couldn't do, and that's win 3 in a row.
yeah,
But I think as long as Nick Saban is enjoying coaching and the challenge of it, the recruiting classes keep stacking up just like ours. I did have fun. Speaking of Feinbaum, some guy called yesterday talking about how Dion was going to change the face of college football, and he's like, "Well, with his next recruiting class," he's like, Feinbaum's like, "Well, that's 20-something players." And do we think those top 20 players are all going to go play in the Big 12 and not display their talents in the SEC? His point being that the Alabamas and the Georgias are a long way away from prime time plucking all the players. I mean, that's
right,
absurd.
right. Well, and it's always good to remember that all of Alabama's goals remain intact after that loss to Texas.
Which, and I don't know why I'm bringing Feinbaum in this, because I do like to contradict him sometimes when he contradicts himself. He was saying that exact same thing about Alabama and LSU the week going into their, LSU. He essentially said FSU and Texas needed to win their games, not to dash their championship hopes. Whereas because of the SEC and the ability to play Georgia and Atlanta, that wasn't the case and is not the case for LSU and Alabama. They roll in there with one conference loss and beat Georgia, unless USC, Oregon, Ohio State, Michigan, unless you just have a slew of one-loss teams. Are they really going to shut the SEC championship out of the playoff? The last one at that, the last 4-game playoff. if they have 2 losses and they beat the champ, Georgia.
Who will at that time have won what, 30 games in a row?
Right, right. So, but now those 2 teams do sure want the Dogs to be undefeated in Atlanta
Yeah,
because
they're
uh,
pulling for us.
because a one-loss Georgia team to a, I mean, shoot, anybody we play is going to be a bad loss.
Unless it's somebody that just overachieves, like an Ole Miss, who could be a dark horse in the West. But if you
Yeah.
had to look into your crystal ball again, who are you picking to win the West?
And boy, at this point, it's kind of interesting because
Right?
LSU showed that, they've got some stuff to work on. I mean, it's impossible to pick that, man. We hadn't even played an SEC game.
Look, I didn't say it was going to be easy. I just said to make a prediction. I'm not going to hold you to it.
One of my best friends in the world that never gets into this crap was talking about playoffs yesterday. I was like, I don't really start thinking about the playoff until after we get a victory in Jacksonville. Because at that point, it's pointless. Because if you go into Jacksonville with 1 loss and you lose, you're done. So what's the point in worrying about it until then? I haven't even looked at booking rooms for postseason. I guess I should. But I'm sticking to the script, baby.
I hear you. Well,
That's why I'm still on this old 2014 laptop that forces me to shut down so your fancy program will fire up for me.
All right. So you mentioned the state of Florida. I got a feeling
I'm with you.
that Florida could take down Tennessee. I don't think they're as bad as they looked, and I don't think Tennessee's as good as they've looked, and they hadn't looked all that good.
Just like I wanted South Carolina to beat North Carolina, if I'm a smart Vols fan, I did not want Florida to drop that opener and look really just god awful doing it. I mean, they look bad against Utah.
Okay, I agree, but I could go back and change 3 plays of that game,
Fair
and it's
enough.
completely different.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The punt, the Hail Mary at the beginning of the game, and the illegal procedure when they were driving.
Right.
That's probably at least 14-point swing.
Yeah. But collectively, they did not look like a very well coached team.
Yeah, I won't argue against that.
Which in Napier's second year, that surprised me but if you listen to the Gator fans, they're saying he was left with the worst roster since the late 70s. I think I heard someone say today.
Well, I mean, he's got the charisma of the brown carpet in the studio. I mean, we were watching. Me and my wife were watching a press conference that came on last night, and I was like, "Look, just watch this guy and just tell me what you think." And she was like, "This guy has got no juice. He's got nothing. It was so boring." And I know his press conference is going to be different than how he's going to talk to the team, but I mean, just watch him on the sideline, and there's nothing inspiring there.
But yet he's won. He's done well. And if you look at Florida State's coach, look where he is when his first couple of years weren't so grand. So can the Gators stay patient with him? This game means a lot. I mean, if they drop a big old deuce as in number 2 in the swamp, a swamp deuce, you can bet, Billy, the seat is hot for Billy. I mean, even if they lose, but lose looking good and looking closer to a sound coached football team, I think I think their AD's committed to him. But
well, he almost has to be, given their recent history of just dumping coaches so fast. I mean, I think Muschamp would have done great if they'd have given him more time.
Right. Yeah. Except, it's recruiting South Carolina and recruiting Florida are big differences.
True.
Huge difference.
True.
Particularly when Kirby has taken over and gotten Georgia to now we hear it all the time, the elite level. That's probably why South Carolina had to part ways. But Will did do a good job recruiting, and now we get to see whether Beamer is doing as well a job recruiting, or did his rah-rah mojo do well with Muschamp's pretty sound players.
I can't see him duplicating what he did last year. I think he caught lightning in a bottle with those two games with Tennessee and Clemson. I just don't see it.
It all comes down to the Rattlers.
Well, if we can have, I don't know, 50% of the sacks that North Carolina had, I like our chances.
We just got to make sure the Rattler doesn't have a first half like, what was the guy's name that had what was that dude? Tannehill.
Yeah, the mullet.
The mullet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember he was doing the hitting it out of the park.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, the Cox have had some fun at our dispense before.
Well,
I'd like to remind people that what were we 5-5 against them just 3 or 4 years ago in the previous 10?
Yeah, that has a big part of that is Spurrier coming in and torturing us from a whole different team. Do you remember when we lost in 2019 and they did the pre-game interview on the sidelines with Kirby like right beforehand, and she was asking him, how's the team, and he goes, the team's not good. I don't know what's going on right now, but I don't like it. And then they went out there and laid the egg of all eggs.
Right. Yep. I mean, it can happen. It can happen.
It can happen, but it's not going to happen this weekend.
Okay. I think we're going to be in a dogfight going into the second half. I think it could be tight.
That I could see.
Yeah.
That I could see. But at the end of the day, okay, I think we cover.
Yes, it's a big old, was it like 28 now?
Yeah, take that back. I was thinking of a couple of years ago and it was 20. Dogs win, but don't cover. I
mean, I'd love to see it. But in a few weeks, I'll be reminding people how many times we've beaten Auburn lately, and they're due. When we play Georgia Tech, I'll say that I'm 11-0 going to Atlanta since starting to go there in the early 2000s. So they're due to win a game in Atlanta at some point. Past that, on paper, we should win these games.
Well, everybody's due to beat us after the last couple of years, and that includes UAB.
Yeah. Well, just don't mess with Dilfer's players. He'll go to social media.
That's right. I don't even know what they're doing over there. Are they any good?
I think they lost a close one to Southern, I think, this last week, and maybe they won their first one. I should know that.
They did lose to Southern.
They did lose to Southern, and I think it was like less than, definitely single digits.
I forgot Dilfer was over there.
Oh yeah,
what an experiment.
You didn't hear that in the off season when he threatened coaches for poaching his guys, that he'd go to his buddies in the media, and I'm like, oh, okay. Kirby's really worried about people in the media not liking him.
Yeah, no, I don't. Somehow I missed that one.
I will say Kirby's unlike Scrooge Saban, who's having to walk back some frustration with the media. I mean, Kirby's very at ease at these press conferences. And I mean, I came back the other day and like there were a couple questions where, and it wasn't really the reporter's fault, but it just wasn't quite clear what they were asking him. And he
Mm-hmm.
just, point blank said, I'm not sure. Instead of saying, man, this is as stupid as shit. Heck, sorry, kid. He didn't. He just said, "Help me out a little here, so I can answer your question." My point being, I think there's been growth in how much he lets the media get under his skin. I mean, because at the end of the day, what's it worth? I mean,
Well, he looks like an old pro up there to the point where if I was in that room, I'd be a little timid about asking a question. Like I would put a lot of thought into it to make sure that I
right,
didn't get an answer that made me feel stupid.
right, right. So, and the two that he had to get clarifications, that he did not make them feel that way at all.
Mm-hmm.
Although it did make you want to make sure yours was not a third unclear one.
Yeah, in a row. Yeah. Well, I got a magic ticket, so I'm gonna see you this weekend.
All right, it's gonna be fun. I'm 3:30. That's been the one nice thing, in my opinion, about these games is that obviously the September slate is not what anybody wanted, but the fact that we've had a night game or semi-night 6, and then we got it out of the way last week, which cleared the deck to watch the big one at night, Bama, Texas, which, oh, by the way, that was a hard-hitting football game, man.
Oh
That
yeah.
was, that was awesome. And then I kind of like the 3:30 this week. You know, night games sometimes are, for me, it's too long of a wait,
Well,
personally.
you got a true night game with UAB.
I know. And I'm on my tailgates crew that weekend too. So,
Uh
man,
oh.
so I've drawn a short straw for that one for sure. Because from a BI standpoint, night games are awful because I lose basically any time to work after the game outside of staying up real late.
Yeah, I'm sure that's they're a blessing and a curse.
Yes. So you think we're going to cover or not?
Man, I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I should go with a hot take here and say, yeah, we cover, but I'm just not feeling it.
I mean, hey, we just want it to be 3-0 on to the next one.
I don't care if we win it by one. I just want to win it.
Yeah. And then get ready for UAB. And then, October, it's much like last year. November is going to be the mini gauntlet.
Yeah, I mean, the season's like this, man. Just working up to a crescendo, and I'm just trying to savor every game, man, because you know how fast it goes by.
The fact that I'm already working on issue 6 when I was doing issue 3 like yesterday,
Right.
it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm talking about.
It's fun though when you're winning.
Yes, it is. All right, Vance. Well, we got to run, but I appreciate you joining us as always, and see you this Saturday. Go Dogs!
Fear the Rattler.
And Bert is back. What's going on?
Mad Dog, it is good to be back. Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk 3 years later we'd be talking about a three-peat? I mean, it's still not real.
Possibly. I mean, the way Kirby tracks during the year, I mean, he's just looking for constant improvement. And it seems like the last 2 years, what we've seen over the course of the year is constant improvement. So, based upon the first 2 games, I hope to see that.
So far, the season has been delightful. You know, I got to watch Brian Kelly lose, and that always makes me happy because I have never liked him as a coach, and I've always thought he was extremely arrogant. And, you know, I think they got way in front of themselves as far as their progress down there. Then you know what happened with the folks to the west of us and the colossal meltdown that their fans are having right now to the point that they're doing all the things that I got into at the beginning of this monologue to make themselves look like what they really are and show their true selves.
Yeah. And it's funny, a few years ago, like if you think back for the last 10 years, it was Alabama that caused every other fan base to melt down. So you watch after that LSU loss, what does Brian Kelly say in the post game press conference?
Yeah.
Like, we thought we were two-time defending national champion Georgia Bulldogs. It's us now. We're the team that's causing everybody else to melt down.
Well, and here's the best indicator of that. And I talked about this earlier. How about the Texas fans chanting, "We want Georgia"? Did you see
You know,
that?
I mean, that had to rub Bama so wrong. I mean, walking out of that loss, that their reality is smacking them square in the face, and now they've got to watch this viral video of a team, like a competitive team, wants somebody else besides Bama. It's
Yeah.
not Bama anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. They had already slayed that dragon. They're ready for the next one.
Well, they got to be careful what they wish for, because we still got some talent on our team.
Without a doubt. So I guess we should start with the favorite stat you've ever showed me, which is net yards per play.
Yep.
And
let's, for our new listeners, let's revisit for just a second, because this, over the past 2 years since we started talking about it, is just a great predictor of who's going to end up in the playoff and who's going to end up in the national championship. And so it's just simply, what is your average yards per play on offense minus what is your average yards per play on defense? That gives you your net yards per play. If you're a team over the course of the year that remains above 2, you're probably going to be in the playoff. If you're above 2.5, you're going to be national champion. 2 years ago, we were almost at 3. We were that good. We averaged almost 4 yards on defense giving up, and then 7 yards on offense. It was absurd. Last year, we were closer to 2.5, but we were still at the top. We were playing a team, and we talked about this before the national championship, TCU, that had one of the lowest net yards per play going into a national championship. I think only Auburn in 2013 had a lower net yards per play going in the championship. And so going into that game, you and I discussed it. We're like, statistically, this does not look like a good matchup for TCU at all. And we saw it play out on the field, but all you got to do is look at that one number, and it'll tell you a whole lot about a team.
It's crazy too, and I love the beauty of its simplicity. Offensive yards per play minus defensive. That's it, and that's just it boils it down to just exactly what's happening each and every play.
That's it. How well you drive the ball minus how well you stop them from driving the ball. And, all those other things come into play a little bit, turnovers and special teams and stuff like that. But over the course of the year, it's the team that can march the ball down the field and stop the other team from marching the ball down the field that's going to be in the playoff.
So let's talk about, us, which by us, I mean the SEC, and how we're looking. Of course, this is a small statistical sample, but already we're at the top.
Here we are. Yeah. Yeah. So we got 2 teams that are above 3 right now, and that is Ole Miss, which I think after game 1, whoever they played in game 1, I think it was a cupcake, but I think they were like 5 net yards per play then. So we've still got a small sample size. We got a lot of cupcakes in the mix. So, it really doesn't flesh itself out until mid-season. But we'll see the cream rise to the top after a couple SEC games. We'll see it. But
I can see Ole Miss. I like Ole Miss. I like their running back Judkins. If they can play a little better defense, don't count Kiffin out.
Yeah, no, I know. And it's going to be fascinating. That'll be a real measuring stick for them, I guess, next week against Bama. And then that'll be a fun game in Athens when they come to Athens.
Is the Bama Ole Miss game, where is that going to be played?
I do not. I want to say it is in Tuscaloosa.
Why does it always feel like every big game Alabama always plays, it's in Tuscaloosa?
Yeah,
crazy.
It's funny how they work that out.
Yeah. Well, Kiffin would enjoy winning there more than he probably would at Ole Miss.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that would. Yeah. Bama fans would have a total meltdown at that point. You know, you
the
think they've
second
melted down
the
already?
second assistant in a row comes in, both of them OCs, and beats
Yeah,
him.
right. You know, Jimbo cracked that can open, and then Kirby ran through it, and then yeah, I mean, now everybody's just running through it.
Yeah, the seal is busted now, and it's
Right.
if you start seeing it, more and more of them. I mean, gosh,
Yeah.
he'll play Kiffin, he'll play Jimbo, which I don't think Jimbo's going to beat him. But are there any other assistants on his schedule this year, regular season?
I don't think so. I
I
think
don't
that's
either.
it. But
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, maybe they still make it to the SEC championship if the West is really weak, and then Kirby can beat him in the SEC championship. So he could have all of his assistants beat him.
I mean, and Bama is way down this list, just in the bottom
Yeah,
to middle
right.
of the
So
pack.
so at the top, Ole Miss 3.67, Georgia at 3.43. So those are the only two teams above three, and then we get down to Tennessee at 2.5 and Florida at 2.4. All of these are going to come down as these cupcakes kind of fall off and they cycle through a more rigorous SEC schedule. But you know, you kind of got all the teams are kind of middle of the pack, which we can now include Alabama at 1.4. They're way down at, let's say, ninth in the SEC in yards per play. And then the team we play this weekend, South Carolina, they're at 0.72. And that is after a large uptick against Furman, just to make that number 0.72. So they had a horrible time against North Carolina. They cannot run the ball. They averaged 2.9 yards per run against Furman, which is a good sign for our defensive line this week. Just two teams below them, Vandy, and then Texas A&M is fascinatingly in last place in the SEC in net yards per play, and the only team that's negative right now.
Yeah, Miami just crushed their numbers.
Yeah, they did in every way. And, you know, you just got to wonder how much longer Jimbo's got there with that fan base. I mean, they can't be patient for much longer with that.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously still got that monster buyout, which I think is 70, 75 million, but it's almost irrelevant because of how much they've got bottomless pockets over there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it would be such a flex for them to go, you know what? We don't care about 75 million. We're done with you.
It
Just
would
dump them
not
to the
be
street.
surprising at all. Did you watch that Johnny Manziel documentary
I
on
did.
the
And I kept waiting for some sort of contrition or apology, and it just never
Yeah.
happened.
Right. But one of the fascinating things about it was that year, that freshman year that, you know, he just blew up. The amount of money that school raised that year off of him was just astounding. I want to say it was in the hundreds of millions of dollars that they then used
Yeah.
to renovate the stadium and everything else around there. But they've got the money if they need to get him out of there, I think.
I have to tip my hat to him and the genius of his plan to float the idea out there that his family had oil money and then go out there and get all this money for signing stuff, take all the cash to his granddad, get his granddad to write a check back to him, just like it was got the money from the oil money.
It was brilliant. I mean, what a 19-year-old scheme worked up by two guys. Yeah, I know. And it sold me like, oh yeah, he's got oil money. You know, that family's got oil money. You know, I think everybody bought into
Yeah,
it.
nobody. I was the same way, and nobody checked the story out. And I
Right.
guess
Yeah.
kind of how can you? Are you going to go look at the granddad's personal financial statement, study his tax returns? It's kind of hard to disprove. All right, back real quick to go
Yeah.
ahead. I was going to just say
The
on your
hubris of those two guys, though, you know, the fact that they were just flying around in jets to autograph sessions, and you know, I mean, they were just completely flaunting the system at that point.
yeah, they did not care.
No.
All right, back to net yards per play real quick. Two that jumped out at me that play this week that are real close together: Tennessee and Florida. Which
Mm-hmm.
I just told Vance I could see Florida upsetting Tennessee. I'm not
Yeah,
sold that Florida is as bad as they were against Utah, and I'm not sold that Tennessee is as great as everybody thinks.
I agree. I think Florida, there's going to be a reversion to the mean on the upside for them because I don't there's no way they could be as bad all year as they were against Utah. I mean, that was horrific. And Tennessee, I mean, last week they struggled against the Cupcake for a while, and they've got quarterback issues just like Alabama does. So, and Florida's going to be up for this game. It's in the Swamp, so they're I'd love to see a shootout in that one for sure.
Quick sidebar. I think the phrase you just used, reversion to the mean, might be the smartest thing that's ever been stated on this show.
That's the only stat word I know. So that's
Easily
it.
the most
I throw
important thing
it
ever
out even
said.
when it doesn't work, Yeah, reversion to the mean. Hopefully, Ole Miss, they're going to revert to the mean too. There's no way they're going to sit at 3.67 net yards per play, and we're not going to sit at 3.43. But if we get into the middle of the year and we're sitting at 2.5 or 3, then we know we've got a team that's going to be in the playoffs again.
Ole Miss may pad those stats a little bit this week against Tech. Now, I know Tech's been looking better, but they may not drop off too much. That what's really going to be where the rubber meets the road is when Ole Miss plays Alabama, and we see what both of them have.
Yeah, and what is bizarre about that, and what'll be interesting, is Tech's offensive yards per play right now. And I was just looking at this when I was looking at the national numbers. They're at almost 8 yards per play on offense. So they're doing something right on offense.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
Yeah, defense is not good.
What's their overall number?
Their net yards per play, I want to say it was like 1.5. So it wasn't great, but offensively, it was near the top of NCAA.
So what number indicates what's the threshold for a winning record? Like, is it like 1.75 gets you to 6-6, or have you looked at that deeply?
No, I mean it's 0 really.
Okay.
So if you're at 0, then you're right in the middle of the pack. It means you average about the same amount of yards on offense as you do on giving up on defense, and you're probably going to finish 6-6.
Mm-hmm.
Now every now and then we'll see a team that's negative finish 8-4, and a team that's positive finish 4-8. But overall, it's if you're around 0, then you're going to be middle of the pack, 6-6 over the course of the year.
So, interpolating off of the numbers we have right now, Alabama's 1.4, I think, equals an 8-4 record.
Yeah, that's right. That they've got 2 to 3 more losses in them if they stick around 1.4 for the year.
Wow. Well, I think their numbers are going to look better after they go down and play USF this week. They'll probably increase dramatically.
Yeah, and I mean, they got Texas has a solid offense.
Right.
They look really good in that game.
Right.
So they're not going to run into a whole lot of Texases over the rest of the schedule.
Right. But they got Tennessee, they got Ole Miss, they got LSU. Mm-hmm. Anything can happen in the Iron Bowl. I mean, because by that point, Auburn, if they keep winning, they're going to be believing. And their 2-quarterback system so far terrifies me.
Yeah, and Freeze was talking about that, and he was saying that he doesn't like it and he wants to get away from it, but I don't know when.
Yeah, I promise you he's not going to get away from it as long as they keep winning.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so Bama could have some more losses in them, and if you want to see a complete meltdown of a program, put 2 more losses on that program this year. And I mean, they're already on Feinbaum talking about firing Saban.
I know.
So the guy they have a statue of out in front of the stadium.
Yeah. Yeah, 8-4, and their collective heads will split open and melt. I mean, it's going to be nuts.
That's party is completely over at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, as far as the rest of the SEC, we got a lot of mid pack, just like we usually do. The top of the SEC is really going to be interesting this year, and I think you've probably heard the narrative that SEC's down, and maybe we're the only strong program. Who knows if we are the only strong program? Who knows who else is going to be that one, at least in the West, that's going to rise up and take the reins there. But if there was ever a year for Ole Miss to do it, it's this year
For sure. There's so much parity over there that, I mean, it's there for the taking. Just like you said, if there's ever a year, this is it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So maybe we'll get to play Ole Miss twice this year.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, that is highly possible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
Well,
but that's it as far as stats go right now. I was going to compile some stats, some personal stats for the Mad Dog show, but I just kind of ran out of time because we talked about this last year about the timing of this show and the timing of us seeding to the top of college football. I mean, it's not just a coincidence.
no.
I mean, what are we looking at now? Let's see, we were 29-1 going into the season, so we're 31-1 since the Bad Dog show started.
And I have still not laid eyes on Buffalo other than through a computer screen. That remains intact.
Yeah, that's funny. I mean, we have a little get together that we do in the spring to celebrate the national championship, and I would love for you to be a part of it, but I would hate for you to jinx this whole thing.
We can't. Nothing changes. Nothing changes.
Exactly. Keep it rolling.
That's right.
For sure. Yeah.
Well, Bert, man, I appreciate you carving out some time for us. I know you're super busy, and
yeah,
go Dogs.
Hey, go Dogs! In a couple of weeks, we'll have some good stats. We can really dive into it then. And one thing that I did want to touch on real quick. The SEC stats, those come from Get the Picture. So if you're on the dog bone every day, definitely go over to Get the Picture because that guy's got the best analysis of Georgia football out there. But Graham Coffey over at Dog Central has a great article, if you subscribe to Dog Central, about Shane Beamer and the fact that there was no love lost between Kirby Smart and Shane Beamer. And I didn't really know that until last year. He kind of wrote about how Beamer had left the program. Kirby wasn't happy with how he was recruiting. Apparently, he's kind of lazy, is what Graham was saying. You really need to go over and read the article. But he said that last year's Georgia-South Carolina game, that Kirby, he was so dialed in on running up that score. And we wanted South Carolina heavily recruited Oscar Delp there. You may have remembered that during his recruiting cycle, but they really wanted him. Of course, we got him. Well, at the end of the game, when the score is way out of reach, I think it's like 49-7 at that point, we run Oscar down the sideline and Carson Beck throws a bomb to him for a touchdown.
Right.
Just to rub it in Beamer's face. And I know that was just to spite him, because earlier in the game, Beamer had gone for run a fake punt that pissed Kirby off, and then we stopped him on fourth down, and Kirby was all in the field celebrating. So he wants this game. I mean, don't be surprised Saturday. And I mean, it could be a close game. Anything happens in the South Carolina Georgia game, but don't be surprised if Kirby pulls out all the stops Saturday to make sure that this game is not close.
Well, just going into reverse of what you said, I'm changing my pick now that I told Vance we won't cover. Now I'm going to say we will cover. I have not signed up for Graham Coffee, but now I want to. And as far as Blutarski goes and Get the Picture, or as it's known on Dogbone, GTP, I read those religiously because they're so good and they're so funny.
That guy's great. He does the SEC Power Poll each week. He's the guy that showed me the net yards per play. Great analysis throughout the season. He does an observation on Monday about the game. Definitely hit it on Monday to read that. And then Dog Central is a pay site, so you got to pay. I think it's like $10 a month. But Graham Coffee's really dialed in on kind of behind the scenes stuff.
Well, I'm gonna have to look him up just for that article.
Yeah, do it. All right, well, good to catch up, and let's do it again in a few weeks.
Sounds great. Thanks again, Bert. And we have the man of mystery, Buffalo. What's up?
Hello, Mad Dog.
How are you?
Yeah.
Good to be seen.
How you feeling this evening?
I'm feeling like a big old sack of money, like we stole it.
That's a good feeling. I'm feeling great too because we're done with those games. What are restaurants and bars call it? A soft opening.
That was a soft.
That was a soft opening, man. The grand opening is Saturday at 3:30.
I love it. Are you going to be there so I can hide from you?
I will be there.
If I hear your voice, I'm going to look at the ground and walk away.
Okay, yeah. I'll do the same. I'll do the same if I hear you ranting on some poor South Carolina fan.
I'm usually low key on the way in, man. It's head down and get in the stadium.
Okay. Well, I know some of the opposing fans probably know your face. They might want to take you down.
There's that, and there's the paparazzi, and it just gets messy.
Yeah.
So I keep a low profile.
Yeah. Well, like I said, first SEC game. We're kind of under the radar right now in the national landscape. We got Dion. He's kind of still. They did well out in Nebraska. They're always mad at somebody. I figured out every week they got some kind of bone to pick. He's been coaching D1 for 2 weeks. He's mad at everybody. His son's mad at everybody. That's working for him. That's good. I just want to know. I'd like to know when do you think LeBron's going to show up on the sidelines there?
Oh, it's going to happen. I mean, I would say he's going to get to bowl eligibility, then LeBron's there.
Yeah, he will. LeBron will switch hat. Ohio State drops a game, man. I'd say he's on the first thing smoking out the Boulder, man. He'll jump ship on teams.
Well, I mean, when is he going to be tested? Obviously, he's not going to be tested this week against Colorado State. Who's he having week 4? Is it like Oregon? He's got
Oregon and USC coming up in the next several weeks. I don't know which dates.
It's back to back. It's Oregon first and then USC, and I mean that's going to be the acid test of what he's got.
Yeah, well,
and I mean at this point, I mean the eye test. If they beat them, I'm not going to.
Yeah. No doubt. So we got him. We got Texas now, who's saying they're back again, and that was a great win on the road for them. But it's one game. Last year, I remember Texas A&M and LSU beating Alabama. Are they back?
Texas A&M is not back.
LSU may be, but
I don't know if LSU was ever all the way back. I feel like they kind of lucked in to get into the SEC championship, and I don't know, man. I don't know that they're that bad. I think that FSU may be that good.
FSU looks good, man, and that's the third story. That's kind of. I know we're still number one. We're getting the credit in the rankings, but we've been under the radar with our 2 games. FSU's up there, deservedly so. They'll probably continue to play well. We'll see if they've only played a couple of games though. It's a long season, and we've had those years in the past where we have had a big win, but over the course of the season we falter somewhere. That's the marathon of this whole thing.
Well, I mean, we did it last year. We did it against Missouri. Obviously, we were lackluster against Kentucky, although that game was like playing in the Ice Bowl. We didn't, set the world on fire with Kent State. So, I mean, it happens,
It's hard.
Huh?
It's very hard to do the whole, to run the gamut. Or even if you look, just to get to the playoffs, even if you lose, it's a hard thing to get there. And so we'll see. It's so early for me to anoint any newcomers. I think we're still way above everybody else, and I think we're going to show that on Saturday. Kirby has beckoned the fans to crank it up, and I'm going to be one of those fans. I remember when he did it last year at Tennessee, I was screaming so loud thought I was having a seizure or stroke. I had to sit down think my daughter got worried. I was like, I'm so lightheaded. I got to take a couple of plays off. But I'm going to be that same way this week. And we're going to put South Carolina into a false start fiasco. And then that's going to, in turn, have Beamer go into the Thorazine shuffle when he freaks out. He's already a lunatic. He's going to go crazy. He's going to need some kind of medicine to calm him down. I want him to have his wackiest post-game conference, press conference he's ever had.
And he's had some. Due to us.
Every week he's had some. I want this one to be the worst.
Well, we're going to need to blow them out. I mean, and we have these last couple of years. So, I mean, and this team's probably weaker than the last 2 years. I mean, good grief. They allowed 9 sacks against North Carolina. I mean, if North Carolina can get 9 sacks, I got to believe we can get 18.
Well, I know North Carolina brought a lot of pressure, did a little bit of gambling, which I'm not sure we're going to do, but we'll see. Hopefully our guys are just good enough, cranked up enough where we don't have to do that. We'll see all about that. But you need to get the Rattler early, which we did last year. We need to get the score on our side early and get them all discombobulated, and their coach he'll be off going nuts. So it'll permeate through the team, and it'll just be a rollover. I think we cover.
What, we're trying to cover 27.5?
Yes, we're going to cover that spread because we're going to make a statement to the rest of the nation that we are head and shoulders above the rest.
Well, when I was talking to Vance, I said no cover, and then Bert brought to my attention the beef that apparently Beamer and Kirby have, and so now I'm saying that we will cover.
I'm going with it, and if we don't and we struggle, I'll come back here next week and accept my beat down. But
well, who cares? Who cares about the cover as long as we win?
Yeah, we need to win, but I think we need to win convincingly, and I think we're going to win. I think we're all focused. I think these 2 games have been leading into this. I almost think those were practices. Now I think everybody's dialed in, and we're ready to go make a little statement here on Saturday. And I don't usually come on here spouting that. I picked actually against us one time. We were playing Alabama. I was scared we were going to lose. So I'm not the biggest. You got some people who are like, we're just going to. I'm not that guy, but this week I am that guy, and I think we're going to take care of business.
Well, I mean, we're going to have McConkey back. We're going to have Edwards back. Every week that goes by that Milton doesn't tweak his hammy, then he's a week closer to being 100%. So I gotta agree with you.
We're going to have Dejan going. We're going to have we're going to have and Bowers gets shut down pretty early, and you notice he gets a catch, 2 catches, maybe a run, and then he kind of goes off. I mean, he'll be full on this week.
Well, he's balled out against South Carolina the last 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
And, Delp's got a little bit of a family history there, so he's going to want to show out.
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's just all signs to me point to. We get that run blocking going. I was listening to John Stinchcomb earlier today, and he was kind of saying we've had some mental errors, 4 or 5 mental errors that he's noticed. Hopefully we get those cleaned up. I know we'll be able to use our physicality to knock them back.
Well, you just hit the nail right on the head with me on the run blocking, because to me it has been underwhelming. And, obviously for a lot of reasons, a new line trying to get cohesive, younger guys coming in for the first time, and maybe just trying to be, vanilla in our run blocking schemes, trying to not show what we're really going to do. Who knows? But I do expect it to get a lot better.
I do too. I totally do. And I think, just human nature kind of gets you into somewhat of a lull. And I think this week the adrenaline will be moving in the right direction for us.
Well, I tell you who could probably tell us who's going to win everything, and that might be the mystical Dogger.
The Dogger.
The Dogger. Let's see if we can conjure the Dogger.
Dogger. Hey, guys.
Dogger is with us. What's up?
How are you? Mad Dog, the Bobber.
Good.
Hello, Dogger.
Good to hear you and not see you once again. Keeping your anonymity intact.
When you do what I do, you have to kind of stay anonymous and be in the background.
for legal and occupational reasons, we do not show his face.
That's exactly right. That's it, right. This is all in fun. No, happy as I can be to be back on here, Mad Dog. Hope you're doing well.
I am. I love your
Yeah.
disclaimer. This is all in fun. All of this gambling talk is all in fun. Just for funsies.
It is. It is. It is. So yeah, nobody listen to what I'm talking about. I had fun over the years.
So tell us who's going to win and who's going to cover.
Yeah, just real quick. So what I'm going to do this year, I'm going to focus only on the SEC. So what I'll typically do each week, 3 SEC games straight up, do a 5-team parlay cracker or a 5-team teaser, which where you can move to points, and then we'll decide on a kind of a random game, maybe where the College Game Day ESPN is, and pick that game. So got to pick it down, limit it a little bit. Last year, the best I did on the 10-team cracker was 9-1, so it came close. And then just from a covering standpoint, so far the dogs, they did not cover in week 1, but they did push in week 2, and both the games have gone under. So again, I'm not going to ever pick the dogs game line during the year. I just don't want to jinx them. But I will throw out some totals. There are a couple of good games this weekend. You have Tennessee versus Florida. So the 3 straight up SEC games I'm going to do. I like Tennessee -6.5 against Florida. I think Tennessee is playing really well, and Florida is obviously not. Tennessee is going to gear up to when we face them, which I hope we're both undefeated, and that should be a great game. So I do like Tennessee to beat up on Florida.
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna respectfully disagree.
Very good. You're always welcome too.
All right, continue.
And that's 7:00 on ESPN, and then you have Ole Miss against Georgia Tech. I was at lunch today with a Georgia Tech alum, and we were talking about it actually just prior to lunch, and he doesn't think Tech's can even come close to competing in that game. Ole Miss obviously pulled it out they looked really good in the second half against Tulane. And then as far as the total, then Georgia, South Carolina, like I mentioned, both the games have gone under so far. And I do think that we'll score a defensive touchdown, maybe even special teams again with our walk-on. And I think South Carolina is going to maybe put up 10 points against us. So I do like over 54 in that game.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to have a big number on.
Yeah, I'm hoping that. I don't know if we can hold them to 0. So I would like a big number on us, maybe like a 52-10 type deal. And then the parlay cracker. So it's a 5-teamer. I'm not sure the exact odds. It depends on who you're playing, but let's just call it about 500-1 if you hit all of them. No, excuse me, probably 50-1. LSU, I'm taking -10 at Mississippi State. I think that one's going to be close early, and then LSU pulls away late. They look so good against their last game. So Alabama.
Hold on. LSU played Grambling.
No, the game before their first game.
FSU?
LSU. They got beat up by it. That's right. I'm sorry. They got beat up by FSU.
I like Mississippi State for the upset.
Everybody likes that too. That's right. I talked to a couple guys today. They like Miss State because they're at home. But I'm going to go LSU. I think they rebound.
It's still a good bet.
Yeah, I like that. I was confused on that one. My bad. Alabama -32 against South Florida. They come out after.
The fans are going to be packed in for that one. They're going to be fired.
Yeah, Alabama -32 after the beatdown they took to Texas. That I don't know if Saban. Hopefully, we'll get him going. The total in the Tennessee-Florida game is 59. It's another one I like to go over. I just think Tennessee's just going to rout them. I'm sure you like to hear that, Bobber. And then Arkansas -8 against BYU. I'm going to actually go BYU +8.
BYU +8. Okay. I don't really know what Arkansas has.
They, I think the projected wise to be pretty good, but it's I haven't really seen too much so far. And BYU, they're hanging in there. I think they have a pretty decent team, so I like that one. And then the total in the Ole Miss Georgia Tech, another one I think will go over. I just think Kiffin will run that thing up as much as he can, just to try to prove a point. So that's 63.5.
Okay.
And then for the late night, anybody that wants to stay up late and watch Dion run around the field. And by the way, I heard y'all talking about their schedule. So they do have next week Oregon, and then the following week USC. So it is back to back coming up after Colorado State. So I like Colorado, and this one I'm going to tease. So you get 6 points on both sides. Colorado they're minus 23.5. You get 6 points, minus 17.5. And then the total is 60. So you go over 54.
Okay.
And that's it.
Craig, you got to promise the dogger. You got to promise. You got to promise us that you'll do the wheel. We need to bring the wheel back.
Oh, the wheel! I forgot about the wheel.
We got to do the wheel on Halloween.
The wheel on Halloween, Mad Dog just needs to give me a little extra time because that takes a little time. The wheel, I hit that 2 times last year, and that's very profitable for your listeners to listen to the wheel. And if it hits, that's when you basically do straight up 3. You have pick 3 games straight up, and then you parlay cracker all 3 of them, and then you tease all 3 of them. And if you hit all 3, it's a big winner. So just give me a little extra time, Mad Dog, on Halloween. I think that's when Harry Carey will make a reappearance. And we'll throw a wheel out then, and any other time you want me to do it, I'm happy to.
In addition to the spinoff podcast of Buffalo, there needs to be a spinoff Dogger regarding gambling and just understanding all the gambling, all the nuances about crackers, wheels, and all these.
It's like calculus
words, but the general public doesn't know, and I have to relearn every year.
I'm going to throw out money lines, I think, too. There was, I think I texted you, Mad Dog, a buddy of ours over in Charleston. His nephew hit a 10-team parlay, and he took a lot of money lines. So the high-end money lines, let's say Georgia's, I don't know what their money line is over South Carolina. I'm just guessing maybe minus 300.
Mm-hmm.
So he took a lot of those games in week 1. He bet $10 and he won $750. But a lot of those were the lower. He didn't take any under. He did take Colorado that week in their first game. So that was his only kind of long shot pick. The rest were big money lines.
Need to schedule a lunch with you, or we just go over the most exotic crackers out there.
I would love to throw them out there.
It's biggest payday, like I bet $10 to win 10,000 to 1 odds.
I promise you, I can come up with it. The odds aren't good, but we can come up with something.
Some of them hit. They got to hit.
It's like doing DraftKings. You bet $5 could win $1 million on NFL. So you never know.
Have the odds? This is an unfair question because I didn't warn you, but have the odds changed much as far as potentially who's going to win the Natty?
I mean, I think Georgia's stayed pretty consistent. I did see that, but yeah, obviously Alabama losing, Texas winning. Those odds did change a good bit. Florida State. I know y'all mentioned Florida State earlier, and I agree with that. They're looking darn strong. So they're up there. I'm not sure exactly what their odds are to win the Natty, but Michigan stayed pretty consistent. Ohio State stayed pretty consistent, even with their struggles against Indiana. But Florida State has definitely jumped up there. I would say, I don't know, maybe they started, and I'm guessing this, they probably started at 40 to 1, 50 to 1. They're probably down to 15, 20 to 1.
Well, what drives me crazy about that is Ohio State and Michigan play a 2-game schedule every year, and nobody talks about it. They want to talk about, we've got a weak schedule this year. Yeah, we got a weak schedule, but it's kind of like Ohio State and Michigan schedule every single year, but nobody ever talks about it.
Right. Yep. That's I guess that's what we get for winning 2 national championships.
Yeah. Well, great point. I'd rather be where we are and people complaining about our schedule than having the most ridiculously tough schedule in the country and going 8-4 like Alabama's about to.
Exactly.
I love saying that.
What's the opinion on Auburn out there?
Man, the jury's still out, but I could see them gaining momentum. And if they beat, who do they have the week before us? Is it A&M?
I don't know.
I think it's A&M. I mean, they're on a path that they could very easily show up to that game undefeated, ranked in the top 20, and you know how that place gets on a big game. I mean, it goes cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over there, and
They do.
It's a tough place to play.
That it is. Yeah, it's going to be, that'll be interesting. And we definitely hit some a rough stretch there as far as toughness. We just need to keep our groove going and keep building on what we have. The first 2 games for us, I think we're builders, just building blocks.
Auburn
Stay healthy.
Auburn's offense had a little trouble out on the West Coast last week, Dave.
They sure did.
I watched that game.
Yeah.
I watched a half of it, but
I'm impressed.
They went 14-10?
Yeah.
They did. Yep.
That was a road game on the other end of the earth, but
You like Cal. I thought you liked Cal, Buffalo.
no, Aaron Rodgers went to Cal. I turned on him.
So did Auburn continue with their 2 quarterback system out there?
They were running some, and I can't say to how much. That was a late game. I'm not sure exactly how much they were running him in and out, but yeah, I think they did that.
I read that they did. I was asleep for that one. Yeah.
I watched like 1 quarter. Well, guys, we're about to get kicked out of the studio by our producer, so we're going to have to run. But I appreciate y'all being here. We're going to follow back up on all of Dogger's calls to see how he turned out. And
please do. I need to be held to my prognostication.
There will be accountability this year, Dogger.
No worries.
Yeah, we're like Dion, Dogger. We keep receipts.
Keeping receipts. Better never rest. You better be eating off the floor.
I got you. I will if I need to.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Mad Dog.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Thank you to our guests. As always, thank you to our sponsors. And I understand that some friends are going to be getting together in Wilmington for Z's Wild Weekend, sometimes Z's Weird Weekend. They're expecting 10,000 people. Make sure you're safe over there. And go Dogs.
The Mad Dog Show is proudly sponsored by
The Sanford Company, Bulldog Illustrated, Dogbone.net, Classic City Collective, The Park Group Marketing and Media, Fincher's Barbecue, Sellers Construction, Bib Distributing, Pelicano Construction, Go Clean Co., Jay Lee, Attorney at Law, Ortho, Georgia, Progressive Communications, Cherokee Brick, Macon Monogramming, Jags Pizzeria, ASP, Butler Auto Group, Willingham Sash and Door, Cranford Chiropractic, and Wawa Oil Company.